They were trying to compel people to say he was the greatest. Michael Jordan didn't say that about himself. Kobe Bryant didn't say that about himself. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't say that about himself. Bill Russell didn't say that about himself. Tim Duncan didn't say that about himself. Nobody said that. Nobody but him in his camp. Steph Curry hasn't said that about himself. Steph Curry has never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Ray Allen never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Reggie Miller never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Allen Houston never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Nobody called himself the greatest in anything but that man in his camp.
Or rather, since we do know that LeBron stacked his teams and he won 4 championships, how do you respect that? And how does that get a pass? How? Because you're inadvertently admitting that LeBron did stack his teams, and that's how he won championships. So how do you respect that?
The NBA's GR debate has been going on forever, but things just got real. On ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon, and Charles Barkley sat down and didn't hold back. The topic: LeBron James calling himself the greatest of all time. These guys weren't playing around. They delivered a serious reality check, not just for LeBron, but for everyone who's taken his GOAT claim at face value. They tore the narrative apart, called out the ego, and took a hard look at the truth behind those championship rings.
They were trying to compel people to say he was the greatest. Michael Jordan didn't say that about himself. Kobe Bryant didn't say that about himself. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't say that about himself. Bill Russell didn't say that about himself. Tim Duncan didn't say that about himself. Nobody said that. Nobody but him in his camp. Steph Curry hasn't said that about himself. Steph Curry has never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Ray Allen never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Reggie Miller never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Allen Houston never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Nobody called himself the greatest in anything but that man in his camp.
Charles Barkley backed up Stephen A.'s tough take and got right to the point. The problem isn't just that LeBron's got championships, it's how he got them. Barkley called out the team stacking strategy that followed LeBron throughout his career. And then came the zinger. If Jordan had done the same thing, would he have 10 rings by now?
Stephen A. Smith mistakenly exposed himself and the fact that LeBron really shouldn't be in the top 3, and LeBron James stacked teams to get to where he is. So as he was talking about it, Stephen A. Smith then says he's wrong about not having LeBron in the top 3, but he's right by saying had Michael Jordan stacked teams to win championships, he would have had like 10 championships. So then the question then becomes, so if LeBron never stacked teams, how many championships would he have, Stephen A. Smith?
Sure, this isn't about denying LeBron's greatness. It's about questioning how he got there. Was it pure dominance, or was it smart team building? Charles Barkley raised the key point. Without those super teams, does LeBron still have those rings? That's the heart of his argument. The journey matters. And when you compare LeBron's path to Jordan's, the gap is hard to ignore. Then Stephen A. took it a step further. He called out the branding, the image, the media control, the quiet push from LeBron's camp to crown him the GOAT. And that, he said, is the real issue. Jordan, Kareem, Kobe, even Steph, they let the game speak. They didn't need to tell you they were the best. LeBron, he told the world himself. In doing that, he broke an unspoken rule. Greatness isn't self-declared. It's earned over time, by respect, not PR. As Stephen A. put it, legends don't chase the crown. They let history give it to them. Then Michael Wilbon chimed in with stories of private chats with Kobe and Jordan, guys who never called themselves the GOAT, even though they had every reason to. Instead, they gave credit to others. They honored the game. Wilbon nailed it with this: the only athlete who ever truly earned the right to call himself the greatest was Muhammad Ali, not just because of what he did in the ring, but because he changed the world outside it through activism, sacrifice, legacy. And then came the real question: what has LeBron done outside of basketball to truly earn that kind of title?
They point to other guys, as you know, and say, oh, wait. Kobe and Michael would say, wait a minute, he didn't win as many championships with Jerry West. Hold on, you better mention Kareem. They would all mention Bill Russell. So the notion that anyone is saying, I'm the greatest, there's one guy in the history of sports I give total pass to saying I'm the greatest, and that's where GOAT comes from, Muhammad Ali. He's the only one who gets to say, I'm the greatest. Ali invented the conversation. He was, and to me still is, the greatest, because he didn't just change his sport. He didn't just change sports. He changed the world.
Changed society.
He changed the nation's position on war.
It's a tough comparison, but a fair one. There's a big difference between dominating the game, Hiu, and changing the game. And in Wilbon's eyes, LeBron might be great, but calling himself the king, that's not greatness. That's self-promotion. Then Charles Barkley jumps back in, no filter this time. He breaks it down. LeBron's titles weren't just won, they were built through super teams. And when that's the formula, those rings lose some weight. Because it's not just about the trophies. It's about how you earned them. And Charles doesn't stop there. He throws a challenge to the fans. If you cheer LeBron for stacking teams, why get so mad when someone like David Falk points it out? That's not hate. That's calling out the double standard. Barkley's not chasing drama. He's calling for consistency. If LeBron's approach is fair game, then so are the critiques. But instead of facts, critics get slammed with emotion, excuses, and deflection. And that, Charles says, proves the point in this game. Respect isn't handed out, it's earned. Building a legacy through adversity is one thing. Stacking the deck is another. And when that truth gets exposed, LeBron's defenders don't push back with facts. They scramble to protect the image. That's when Charles drops his harshest truth yet.
Or rather, since we do know that LeBron stacked his teams and he won 4 championships, how do you respect that? And how does that get a pass? How? Because you're inadvertently admitting that LeBron did stack his teams. And that's how he won championships. So how do you respect that?
For LeBron fans, logic isn't just optional, it's the enemy. And no, that's not an insult, it's a diagnosis. Charles Barkley calls it like he sees it. This fan base builds its case on emotion, not facts. They dodge accountability, cherry-pick stats, rewrite the story, and act like every critique is a personal attack. At this point, it's not even about greatness. It's about guarding a brand. And every time someone questions LeBron's legacy, Charles isn't mad at LeBron. He's frustrated by the fan base's refusal to hear anything critical. That blind loyalty, that unwillingness to have a real conversation, it's poisoning the way we talk about basketball. Because when logic gets pushed out, all that's left is tribalism. And in that kind of space, real debate doesn't just fade, it dies.
I've listened to every argument there is out there for why LeBron should be considered the GOAT or next to Michael. I've pretty much heard them all. And out of the abundance of arguments that I've heard, not one of them is rooted in any kind of logic or sense. It's just rooted in a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of twerking, and a bunch of honey sling.
Charles isn't chasing clout, he's chasing clarity. He's not in it for drama. He just wants the GA debate to get back to basics, facts over feelings, principles over passion. Until fans are ready to judge with reason, not emotion, this conversation stays broken. Then Charles drops one of his boldest takes yet. He strips away every flashy argument used to put LeBron over Jordan and calls it what it is: emotion dressed up as logic, hype, spin, fan delusion, and social media noise. That's the foundation. And as Charles says, if your foundation is weak, your argument doesn't stand. He's heard it all. The clips, the stats, the debates, and finds them empty. Not because LeBron isn't great, but because the case being made for him just doesn't hold up. So Charles draws the line: if you're gonna debate this, bring the facts, bring context, bring the truth. Otherwise, say I'm just repeating noise for clicks. And after everything said by Stephen A., Wilbon, and Charles, the message is loud and clear: greatness can't be self-declared. LeBron may be one of the most gifted athletes to ever play the game. But legacy, that's not his to crown. That's for the game. And for history to decide. Jordan never had to say it. Kobe never had to say it. Even Kareem let his game speak. The only one who ever truly earned the right to call himself the greatest, Muhammad Ali. And that was about more than sports. That was about what he gave to the world. That's the line LeBron's camp refuses to acknowledge. Because greatness can't be forced. You can't market your way into the history books. True greatness, it's earned, it's proven, and it's remembered, not because you asked for it, but because the world saw it. Until LeBron understands that, he'll always stand just outside the circle of the true legends. If this breakdown hit home, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and turn on that bell so you don't miss the next dose of raw, unfiltered truth. See you next time.